What exactly are you insinuating? Because it sure sounds to me that you're reiterating the exact same thoughts and sentiments that the award-winning atheist Sam Harris used to justify his suggestion that a preemptive nuclear strike on the Muslim world, killing tens of millions of innocent civilians in a single day, is justified.
They embrace the use of force, where they're supporters of preemptive war. Their political agenda coalesces completely with the radical Christian right. That our way is the civilized way, the only way. There are no other ways to be, other ways to think, other ways to... And if they won't be converted, then they have to be annihilated. I mean, Sam Harris, in The End of Faith, asks us to consider a nuclear first strike on the Arab world.
Well, imagine having Sam Harris as President of the United States with access to the nuclear launch codes. That is no different to the fear of having Sarah Palin in charge of the nuclear launch codes.
Wow.
This is a guy that has a binary worldview, us versus them, good versus bad, has already said that would support possibly a nuclear first strike on the Arab world.
Are secular fundamentalists, through this kind of atheism, created a kind of secular religion where they, like the Christian right, place people on another moral plane. Some people are worthy of moral consideration, some are not. It is a matter of us and them. They also believe in the use of violence as a kind of cleansing agent. They call for an eradication of irrational religious hordes, or certainly a conversion, in the same way that the religious right does. Sam Harris, for instance, in his book, The End of Faith, talks about carrying out a nuclear first strike against the Arab world.
I'm very happy to be talking to you, and I think we will have a good conversation, but I'm not at all happy with how we arrived here together, and I think there's something to be said about that, because viewers coming naively to this video won't understand, the context for this conversation. I think, and it's not a surprise to you because we've communicated by email, but I think you've treated me really unfairly in the last few weeks, and I've come here to clean up this mess. And that the structure of that conversation is an unfortunate one, because I'm going to be saying a lot of things that are going to sound defensive, right? I'm taking, the slime of a few people who you've had on your show before me off of me, right? And that's an unfortunate just context for any conversation, because one, I'm going to have to say some critical things about these people. These are people I don't actually want to talk about, like Reza Aslan and this guy C.J. Werleman, who you've had on your show. What has happened on your show in previous weeks, you've had this guy Werleman, who's now a well-established fraud and liar, and he's outed as a serial plagiarist.
First of all, let's just be clear, though. The plagiarism charges came out after he was on the show.
Yes, it's true. It's true. But it was obvious to me that this guy was lying about my views.
You have a perception of what they said that is not the same as mine, right?
Okay.
You view it as totally unfair, but that's why we're going to have this conversation, right? Because I think it is fair. Look, we got to go to the nuclear strike because, again, it affects all other issues. So now, you did not say we should do a nuclear strike on anybody, right? But you said we should, correct me where I'm wrong, we should consider doing a nuclear strike, a first nuclear strike, under certain circumstances. I find that to be incredibly dangerous talk.
Okay, but it is a dangerous fact of the world that we have nuclear arms, right? We have nuclear arms because we have already considered doing a nuclear strike under certain circumstances. That is what the Cold War was about. Yes, so this is the world that we're in right now. If we could uninvent these weapons, that would be great, right? But we have a nuclear doctrine, and it developed entirely in a Cold War context, where we were faced with the Soviet Union that was, for all of the flaws and all the ideological quirks, this was not a death cult and did not have the basis of being a death cult. These were rational actors, and their hopes and fears and aspirations were constrained by terrestrial concerns. These were not people who could say, we love death more than you infidels love life, right? And again, this is just 2 paragraphs in The End of Faith, right? This is not me talking ad nauseum about nuclear policy. But in just a very kind of game theoretic way, I asked us to consider how a belief in martyrdom, a belief in paradise, just unties this convention of mutually assured destruction as a deterrence. The Cold War was possible because neither side wanted to really play a game of chicken. When you're playing a game of chicken with someone who wants to get to paradise, you're screwed. You're going to lose this game of chicken, right? So, and the moment you accept, and again, many people don't accept this for reasons I cannot fathom, but the moment you accept that certain people really do believe in paradise, really do want to die and to get there, right? Or they're hoping to be martyred. This is that death today would not be a bad thing for them. And then you imagine us failing to keep the big bombs and the long-range missiles out of their hands. You imagine a regime that is just like ISIS, but they've got ICBMs. We have to find some way to avoid that. And the Muslim world in particular has to find some way to avoid that. The Pakistanis that already have bombs, right? They don't have the missile technology, but they have the bombs. They're a coup away from delivering these bombs into the hands of the Pakistani Taliban. We have to find some way to avoid that.
If you say the Iranians, we're so afraid of your death cult or whatever we think your intentions are, that we might do a first strike on you, you make it far more likely for them to do a first strike on us.
Well, or I mean that again, that's an interesting conversation from a game theoretic point of view. It could be that you make it far more likely for them just not to build the bombs in the first place. You say
that has not been
how
things have developed.
No, but
either in this context or any context.
You just have to play it out. So listen, you have a belief system. We're taking you seriously. I mean, you're the people who are waiting for the Mahdi, and you're hoping. You realize that this world is just an antechamber for the world to come. What I was asking in those two paragraphs in the End of Faith was for us to consider the possibility, the horrible possibility that must be avoided at all costs, that a regime that is the psychological equivalent of the 19 hijackers, people who really are willing to hit the wall at 400 miles an hour, gets long-range nuclear weapons.
The second huge problem of that line of thinking, Sam, which is that if you start going down that road of assumptions, well then we would do the unthinkable. So I'm afraid that what people they're going to take you seriously, right? You're doing it as a hypothetical, and you're doing it as a game theory, etc. But neocons can easily take that and who desperately want to attack Iran, right? And other people and your fans and people that are reading you, that are watching, etc., can think, well, yeah, these guys they all want to commit suicide, they all want to go to heaven, and we got to hit them. We got to hit them.
I'm not saying we're in that situation, right? So so again, we have to and you have to follow every word in this argument. There's a difference between long-range nuclear weapons and nuclear weapons, right? Long-range means you can launch a missile from wherever you are and hit Paris and London and New York and Los Angeles, right? Even North Korea doesn't have that technology now. Pakistan does not have that technology. So it's not simply a matter of having nuclear weapons. But yes, if we can't have a Cold War with a regime, and I'm not saying Iran is this regime, but I'm saying there's a possible regime, a regime of true jihadists who prove with their actions that they really believe what they say they believe, right?
So we might have even a disagreement on the core of that hypothetical. Let's say ISIS becomes a state of some sort,
right,
and we are significantly concerned that they have acquired a nuclear weapon. I would never do a first strike, because you're going to kill hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of innocent people, men, women, and children. I mean, we worried about decapitation. The little babies' heads would explode. Grandmothers' heads would explode. I would never do that.
Okay, but look what we did. Again, you have to just look at history and where we come from. Look at the Second World War. The nuclear bombs we dropped were not even the worst things we did in the Second World War. I mean, the firebombing of Hamburg and Dresden and Tokyo arguably killed many more people and in more horrible ways, right? In fact, the argument for using the nukes was that we wouldn't have to do any more firebombing. It would be such a punctate and startling show of power that we would actually save lives, both our own and the Japanese.
Sam, I hope that we have developed into a better, slightly more humane world. I mean, if if right now we went back to fire bombings, Jesus, we would have regressed so much. If we went back to nuclear weapons, we would have regressed so much.
You and I totally agree that we've made progress and we want to hold on to that progress, right? So yes, these were all war crimes by any standard, right? How we waged war. We were fighting the Nazis, so we had a real enemy that, and a very powerful one, but the way both sides behaved was just, it was completely insane by any moral standard, in terms of the conscious targeting of civilians by the hundreds of thousands, right? So, and yes, one would hope we could never do that again, and we want to get to, what I want to do is get to a world where a war between the U.S. and Iraq, or a war between the U.S. and China, or just wars, is no more plausible than a war between Vermont and New Hampshire. So we have to find ourselves to a situation of global civil society where things like North Korea, if they are in fact possible anymore, are looked at as a kind of crime problem, a hostage situation that the entire world has to intervene on, and we have to stop genocides when we see them. So but now, the question is how to get there. Disarmament is something that we should absolutely attempt, but again, it's a difficult thing to do, given that the technology can't be uninvented, given that I'm not very liberal in that regard. I don't believe disarmament is possible. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think it's possible. But if you don't believe it's possible, then there is a first strike policy implicit in the having of these weapons. No, there isn't. Not in it. There isn't. Even if your policy is we don't have a first strike policy. I think as a first strike, no, I would never contemplate that, because then you are doing what you are accusing them of wanting to possibly do. But let's say we had we're back in the Cold War now. It's us and the Soviet Union. And we have intelligence that is just incontrovertible that the Soviet Union is planning a first strike, right? And so just take out the uncertainty, right? We believe this as surely as we believe anything, that they're, on July 4th of this year, they're going to, of next year, they're going to wipe out every major city in America, right? For whatever reason. Things have heated up to that degree. Having nukes of your own is the only, you can't conventionally deal with that problem, right? We would have, in that case, execute our own first strike. Having nukes and using them first are two entirely different things. But what you're not granting is that one could ever be pushed to the brink of where self-defense became synonymous with using your biggest weapons. I'm not granting that. And the reason, Sam, is because we don't live in a hypothetical world. We live in a real world where there will always be uncertainty. And in that world where there is uncertainty, I'm afraid that people are going to take what you say as a carte blanche to, well, I thought it was going to happen, so I went ahead and pressed the button. It's not, but what you're saying is even more dangerous in my view. What you're saying is, we don't have to think about how bad and scary things could get, given that this technology is in place. No, but I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that there are certain people certain cultures, given their beliefs, given their stated beliefs, can't get these bombs. It's not that I believe in a first strike. I believe that we are meandering into a circumstance where even with the best of intentions, good people could see no alternative but to commit a horrendous crime, as good people have done again and again in the history of war with the technology available. Good people committed horrendous crimes throughout World War II based on a pure perception of self-defense, right? And a logical one given what the enemy was doing to them. The bombing of London gave the British every reason to bomb Dresden, right? So it's not, again, what's so horrible and what we have to grapple with is that bad ideas and bad circumstances and bad incentives can allow for good people to behave like absolute monsters. That's much scarier than the few monsters in the world. It's much scarier than the 1% of psychopaths. To have ideas, to have systems, to have incentives where people who are better than you and me can be committed to atrocities. And so again, a belief in paradise is one of the scarier memes to have running on the hard drive,
So
because
Sam,
it changes the equation on so many fronts.
I think that's a good point to end on. I really, really hope that this was a good opportunity to have the conversation and to give context to all of the different things that we discussed. So thank you so much for coming in,
thanks
Sam.
for hanging
Really
in there.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
We got to go to the nuclear strike because, again, it affects all other issues. So now, you did not say we should do a nuclear strike on anybody, right?
You did not say we should do a nuclear strike on anybody, right?
Right.
Many months later.
By the way, people do it to me, and they think that they're liberals. This whole Sam Harris, Bill Maher wing,
Yes.
and they are rabid, man. They do it every day online, every day. They're relentless. So if you want to say, oh, the Muslims, they're the bad guys. You know a Muslim. You support a Muslim. Yes, I do. I know Muslims. I support Muslims. They're Americans. They're 100% Americans. And you're going to have to come through me. Oh, no, hey, I like gay rights. I like other rights. I'm just not Muslim. So, hey, when you come for the Muslims, I agree with you. Let's make sure that we set them aside and make sure we profile them. We watch them. We go into their mosques. We go into their universities. We go into their college groups, and if we need be, torture them. If need be, do first strikes against them. If need be, according to Sam Harris's book, I'm just hypotheticals. I'm just posing. What if we did a nuclear first strike on them? I mean, after all, they are Muslims. Their views on Islam. A lot of you said, oh, we have misrepresented Sam Harris's views, and you asked for an apology. Will you get one? No.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success while you're gonna wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not gonna stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can! Just do it! If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up.